So here's the thing. Some people are going to live a timeline where there is doom and gloom. Hate to say it. What are you energizing and what are you choosing? And other people are going to live a timeline where we're creating something really cool and really new. And so there is one choice that we can make energetically, which is I'm going to kind of just see what unfolds. And that's where you're just going to see what your underlying assumptions and expectations are going to bring you to. Hello and welcome back to the show. I just got back from a great few weeks of travel. I'm actually going to continue that. Upcoming March and April are always lots of travel for me and very fun traveling. I was in Aspen and I was in Idaho and took my yearly girls trip with my friend Stacy. And that is such like a pillar moment for me each year. And we were talking about that this year of how powerful it is to have a ritual that you come back to every single year to celebrate our birthdays and a new year ahead. And we always just talk about how much things have changed. And I think it's so helpful to have that benchmark to reflect on how different your life is. And when we have those few days together, we always notice how much we've changed since the last year based on what we were talking about before, and also what stayed the same, like what patterns are we still in. And we had a lot of just amazing conversations this weekend that really inspired me, and so many downloads, so many things coming through. I've talked about this before on the show so many times, but ritual is so important for helping to open up your channel and allow downloads to come in, and really having those benchmarks again with your frequency to see where you're at in that spiral of evolution. I am just a really big believer in that. And we have this amazing spa day every year where we are in treatments from 9 to 5 p.m. And how often do you have people rubbing you, doing body work on you, taking care of you for that long? It's just such a powerful thing to receive, an experience to receive. And you just get more and more relaxed and deeper into your body every time. And I will come out of a treatment and feel like I'm just a melted puddle, and I'll think there's no way I can be more relaxed. And then I get even more relaxed. And what comes out of that is just so much powerful release and so many powerful downloads. And so I just share that because we live in a world where there's so much content, but I know that the most powerful way to know things for yourself and to learn things for yourself is through experience. And I can share with you as much as I can, but at the end of the day, having experiences for yourself is the most important thing to prioritize, so that you have that embodied learning, so that you have that embodied wisdom. And it's one of the reasons why the app is so powerful and so important in the CTC app, because it's helping you facilitate your own spiritual experiences, your own experiences talking to your soul and talking to your guides and getting your own downloads, because it just hits different when you feel that soul resonance, when you have your own personal experience, when you have that moment where you're in another dimension and you are talking to the divine and you feel that frequency. That's the most powerful way to make that shift and fortify that. So if you're not already in the app, definitely check out the link below. You can get a 7-day free trial, because people have incredible experiences there every single day. We have so many miracle healings, and that is a lot of how I feel, in my everyday life. And when I have a weekend, like last weekend, I feel like I am walking in one person and walking out another person. And there was so much that we covered. I wrote down so many notes because I felt so inspired by everything coming through. And one of the themes that we were talking about a lot was education and learning. And it's something that comes up with a lot of people I meet through the show and through my work, different conversations I have with parents, because we're in an age where I know education is looking really different. People are creating something new. People are wondering what's next. And so I have that conversation a lot with parents of kids at different ages. I have friends whose kids are 2-3 years old. I have friends whose kids are 16, 17. And so it's just really interesting for me to hear from parents at different ages. And I have clients who come in, and I just notice, those questions and what people are creating. And I think we're in a really beautiful space right now where we are creating new timelines and we're creating new possibilities, and we get to really outcreate what we've been limited by before. And what's happening on a collective level is things are crumbling because they have to be rebuilt. And this is where we get to step up in our own leadership and responsibility. And we have to actually think, like, we cannot let AI build the new structure for us. That will be the most detrimental thing we could do. And unfortunately, that's a big part of the agenda right now, is to get people really dependent on AI so that they're not thinking for themselves. And that is the easiest way to intellectually enslave people. And we had a lot of conversations this weekend about education. We actually talked a lot about college because my friends' kids are going to be headed to college in a few years. But I just noticed when things pop up in my reality a lot. And, I had a chat this morning with somebody who manages my investments, and he was talking about, how much risk we want to take, and how with what I do, it's inherently it's riskier than somebody who has, he said, like, I guess more of a stable job. And I said, well, I just want to like touch on that for a second, because I get how from, like my parents' generation, that life experience, it might be seen that way. But I told him, I said, here's what I want you to understand. Like, the reality is that we live in a very different era. And I know for myself, I have always felt that my career is the most stable career I could have, because I'm in charge of how much money I make. I'm in charge of the business. And I look at people around me who choose careers because they want something stable and they think it's stable, but that rug can get pulled out from under them at any moment. And I've watched that happen to so many people close to me, where they make choices because they're trying to avoid any risk and they want something stable and solid that they can depend on. And then guess what? There's a round of layoffs. Guess what? We can't pay for this anymore. I mean, people lose their job every single day. And so from one perspective, nothing is more stable than anything else. But this is where your spirituality, this is where your relationship with your destiny and your fate and your understanding of energy and manifestation really shifts your locus of control. And it's why it is so important to fortify you in changing times. And what's happening right now with timelines is we're doing so much timeline hopping. If you are having crazy dreams, if you're emotionally processing a lot, if you feel like every day part of you wants to do this and part of you wants to do that, or you're unsure, it's because you are in between timelines and a lot is moving around. And a lot of people are locked into how things are falling apart and the fear and it's crumbling, all of that. But here's the thing. This is where there's actually an opening. And a few weeks ago, I was talking to Archangel Metatron, and he handles timelines. Okay. And I said, what can I tell people about, when you just feel like everything is falling apart or there's so much fear, there's a very real human experience. Like, there's war going on and people are getting taken and abducted and people are getting hurt and there's just so much horrible stuff. And I know I'm very psychic and I'm an empath. And so I feel all of that so intensely, and I have to really work with and manage my energy. And that's why I have, energy work has been the most important tool for me to stay grounded and for me not to collapse into fear, but to actually be able to feel my emotions, move the energy, and actually come through things with an empowered state of how can I move forward in a healthy way and in a helpful way. Because that's the thing. It's not helpful to keep energizing fear. It's just not. And so coming back into that personal responsibility and what can we do and how can I add positivity to the collective? What actions can I take? Things like that. But the way that he answered me was in a visual. So sometimes they'll just talk back to me like a person. And a lot of times they'll basically take me into a vision or take me to a place, a different place in another dimension, whatever. So basically he took me into this vision where I was in this space and it was all dark. It was all black. And I felt like compressed in the void. It was just black and like rocks crumbling, and I felt like I was in the middle of it, and it was this feeling of there's no way out. Like everything's falling all around me and I'm compressed in the void space, and it's all just dark and I can't see anything. And that emotion of I'm just stuck came up. And as rocks were falling, I saw up here this little opening between these rocks, like light, like somebody, you know, in movies, some people are trapped underground, they got to make their way out. And it's like, I saw that little crevice of light, like just bright white light. And he said to me, if you keep like looking down here, and if you put your head down and you're just trying to protect yourself from everything crawling, you are just collapsing with it. But if you change your point of focus and you see that, he's like, just go into it. And so I turned and I just kept focusing on it. And I literally put my hands up and I like literally just started pulling it until eventually like I pulled myself above it. And now I was in this beautiful white space, etheric realm. This is where we can create templates. This is where we can create energy. This is where we can try things on. And when you're in that space, you know, it has this very pearlescent, like opalescent energy to it in that white space. This is like, I actually get to create my timeline. I'm not actually on one, but what am I going to create? And something that he's saying right now that he's been saying a lot of recently is we can get more specific with this idea of what's the highest timeline, because there can be a lot of high timelines. And something that he has been, and my guides have been pushing me personally into, is get more specific with that, like lock into that vibrational stream with actual frequencies. Is it abundance? Is it joy? Is it happiness? Is it relationship coded? And I know we want to just be like, I want all of it. So, but get specific, because actually what's most important to me, like if I think highest timeline, pure mission, that actually might not be the same thing as highest timeline, I'm in my mission and joy is my highest priority. Like that's actually more specific. Or I'm in my mission and like love and connection is my highest priority and joy. And you can add many things in there, but that actually helps us anchor into a more specific vibration. And that's a lot of what's being asked of us right now for us to co-create, because people are straddling a lot and not moving forward right now energetically, because we are not being specific enough with the track that we want to take things down. And we are at a place where you are going to be in a very different reality from everybody around you. Like, you may or may not realize that, but it's that thing where I can come into the office next week and I might be like, that's a different version of Tinelli over there. Like this is not the same Tinelli that was in my reality last week, because I made a different choice. And that's what starts to get complicated about timelines, because when you actually understand how energy works and time works, you're not working with this, you know, linear time, which changes a lot about how people understand what manifestation really is. And it changes a lot about it really collapses any ability to be a victim to people around you, because you just vibrate somewhere else where there's a different dynamic going on. So here's the thing. Some people are going to live a timeline where there is doom and gloom. Hate to say it. What are you energizing and what are you choosing? And other people are going to live a timeline where we're creating something really cool and really new. And so there is one choice that we can make energetically, which is I'm going to kind of just see what unfolds. And that's where you're just going to see what your underlying assumptions and expectations are going to bring you to. And there's another opportunity where you can say, I actually want to take more agency with the timeline I'm choosing. And I want to be in the one where we are really innovating to the nth degree. Like we are really, it's very Aquarian, right? It's very much, I want things to be innovated in a more back to our roots type of way, or I want things to be innovated in a very technological way, right? You look at different future timelines, even just with what we think is futuristic, like the Jetsons versus, I know a lot of us feel like we're going to go back to, I live in the middle of the forest and I bring my friends with me and we live more communally and we live off the land and we're not on the internet and things like that. Like those are two completely different timelines that you're living. And you know, I have been rewatching Star Wars recently, one of the best series to understand energetics and a plasma, right? Consciousness, working with the force, how that interacts with emotions, right? Like watching Anakin turn to Darth Vader and seeing the track of his emotions and how that shifts what part of the force you work with. Like this is such great education. But I think that Star Wars is a really great way of showing how vast the universes are, because they go to all of these different galaxies, and there are some planets they go to that are so like futuristic-y, more Jetson-y, right? Very techy. And then there are some that where you're like in the jungle and it's more communal and it's more back to nature, right? You're seeing that difference, and that is the truth of what's available for us. So what are we picking? This is an important choice you need to make consciously. Like you need to pick this. And I would do the plant your manifestation in the quantum meditation for this, because you're hitting a point vibration. Like if you're watching this where you are going to constantly be toggling and you won't be able to move until you make these vibrational choices. It worked for a long time to just kind of flow with things, but there are subtle choices we need to make, and they don't have to be specific, but they do have to be clear in terms of vibration for us to move forward. And I'm speaking to who's listening, right? You're going to see more and more channels sharing different future timelines because they're speaking to the people that resonate with them, who are on the timeline aligned with them, because there are going to be different futures. So what everyone is saying is going to be true that's how resonance works. That's how people find people, right? So you're here watching this, and there's a million other people who see future timelines and channel that you've never heard of and you're never going to bump into because you're not aligned in terms of resonance. And so that's how you know what applies to you. Okay. So I'm telling you, if you're here, you need to be more specific about what you're headed into. So if I go back to this education thing, I think this is really interesting because I think about college, and my friend and I were talking about how, I'm of the opinion right now as it is, like if somebody has the financial resources to go to college and they want to go to college, I think great. Like I personally had an amazing college experience. I loved my education. Every class I took, I have used in my life and I found very interesting. And that's that. Do I think that I needed it 1% for my career? Absolutely not. Do I think no, absolutely not. And I think that if somebody doesn't have the financial resources, like if I was 17 years old and I didn't have the financial resources, I would not go, and I would make money on the internet, and most things you don't even need to go to college for. I don't even know where anybody who worked for me went to college, to be honest. Never has that come up. And I think trades are really important. Trades are more important than ever before. Like having skills, construction and plumbing and electricians, like all of that is so important. Soft skills, being able to work with people, being able to manage people, intuitives, therapists. Like we have to look at what AI can't replace and isn't going to replace. AI is great with data. And so jobs where it's just a lot of, data, or AI can straight up replace you. Like, I don't know, figuring out macros, like these are things that are going to change. And so we look at how different the job market is going to look like very fast, very quickly. Like, I mean, in the next 5 to 10 years, things are going to be totally different. And I find it really interesting. I have some friends who have studied AI, for a long time. And I've been listening to a lot of their talks on how that's just changing careers. And I think it's fascinating what everybody is kind of projecting. But I do think there's this gap between what people are logically projecting and like intuitively what I feel coming up. And I think our choices about how education changes really matters. Somebody had sent me a video about cursive and like, why don't they teach cursive in schools anymore? And in the video, the creator was saying, she was saying because AI can't read cursive, and also because a lot of our original documents were written in cursive. That's its own thing. But there's a few things I want to say. My friend Stacey, she was saying, I think you're the only person I've ever met who loved every single class I took in college and actually found them all useful. And I told her, I said, it's because I didn't pick any classes based off of what I thought my career was going to be. I picked my classes based off what I was interested in. Like I took Queens of Egypt and American folklore and I don't know, what was that neuroscience class? I took this neuroscience class on like, is the dress white and gold or blue and black? Like what does it mean if the horse is walking backwards for you or if it's walking forwards? Like that was a great class. Like I took psychology of health. I took like whatever. Even all my film classes I took because I was interested in them, not because it was what I thought my career was going to be. And most people around me were like, I want to be a doctor, so I'm going to take this class because this is the best class to take to be a doctor. Or I know at my school, people who wanted to go into marketing, you're supposed to take accounting. Like that was what they told you to do if you wanted to work in marketing. And I was like, maybe I want to work in marketing. Maybe I want to be a psychologist. Maybe I want to whatever. And I remember at the time I was like, I don't want to learn accounting. That makes no sense to me. But I have a lot of friends who wanted to work in marketing. So they took accounting and they hated school and they hated their classes and none of it is even relevant for them anymore. And I feel like that's such a perfect example of this. I'm not choosing based off of what we think is going to happen in the future because it hasn't been created yet, and understanding that my intuition and my interests and my curiosities and my desires and what's lighting me up right now is connected to my highest future timeline and is pinging for me because it's pulling me into that future timeline. It's actually relevant for me. So if I had made all of my choices, which class should I take because I think I want to have that career, that never would have worked out for me because I was wrong about what I thought my career was going to be. I didn't know what my career was going to be. Like I totally just fell into it one step at a time. But what was happening right then was, for some reason, I was like, I really want to learn about Egyptian queens in power. Like I feel very strongly about this. And so I went and I did it. And, 10 years later, Egyptian queens that I learned about are coming and visiting me in spirit form and giving me all kinds of information that I needed to know about how to work with coding, which then allowed me to start to do energy transmissions into people's bodies and help them heal. But me, when I was 19 years old, had no concept of that happening in the future. But that was future me whispering back to me, hey, you're going to need this in the future. But people are so disconnected from what's popping up for them right now because they're hyper aware of a potential future that's not even probably going to happen. Most of what people are locked into is not even the most probable future. What you are currently lit up by at your deepest core level is guiding you there, right? So I want you to remember that with the choices you're making right now, instead of trying to work backwards, because your current passion, your current excitement is your soul trying to align you with the most joyful, easeful way forward. And a lot of, I look at my life, it's just been trusting the present moment and not overthinking it. And everybody around me being like, coming back to what I was saying at the beginning, I think about adults around me when I was 19 who they were like, you're literally throwing your life away. Throwing your life away, you're throwing your smarts away, you're throwing your intelligence away, you're throwing everything away. You're not going to make any money. You can only make money if you did this or that or this or that. And at that time, that made sense. Like at that time, people weren't doing what I do now and being successful. But I trusted it, and thank God I did, because I was internally tapped into the aligned future for me. And now I make more money than I did before that, right? Like within a few years, I made more money than any of those people that were telling me that I was throwing my life away, because in their present reality, this job didn't exist yet, but now it does. And all kinds of people do it. So this is how we have to start to learn to work with the future. And I think about with education, my friend and I, we were kind of talking about I'm like, I cannot wait to homeschool my kids. I've thought about this a lot. There's so many amazing programs out there already, which is great. And it's just budding. And I can't wait to see what it's like by the time I have kids who are going to go to school. And I know, young kids, there's like outdoor schools now, but I look at these 9-year-olds, 10-year-olds who are crushing it, who are like making businesses when they're 9 years old. They're actually learning coding. They're learning to go outside and build things. They are learning communication skills. They're learning entrepreneurship. They're actually have time for the arts, whatever that is. If it's dance, if it's painting, like it's a much more well-rounded and spacious education. And I was talking about how could college look different? And I was saying, what would have been so amazing? Like if I was in college and I could go to a school that was already specialized in the specific type of entrepreneurship. Like when I was 18, if I went to school and every class I took was about how to be an influencer, and I was just taught by real life influencers. And because that's the most important thing, right? Like, are people actually out there in the field, and can they actually teach you what's going on? Or are we just learning concepts from people that haven't actually done it? And I think that's one of the reasons why I loved my education, because most of my professors were people that were actually out there in the field. Like I took so many archaeology classes, not from people that just read about archaeology, but they were like, yeah, I just got back from my 10-year expedition in Egypt digging stuff up, and like, here's what I found. That's very different to learn from that person than it is just to learn out of a textbook. But this is why the books, we have to get cautious about the books, and there's a lot to do with the books right now. So one of the things that they said really strongly to me at the end of this trip, they said, my guides, they said, you need to write down a thorough list of like what your curriculum would be book wise for your kids. So those would be classics in literature that I love, that I think are really important. I mean, there's so much in that category. Spiritual books that are like classic, formative books. If it's on money, if it's about mindset, if it's about personal growth, like really look at what that would be. And they said you need to buy a hard copy of all those and have that in your library. And I immediately thought like, oh, I'm going to put them in some suitcases and basically like have my little library of books that I think are really important. And I don't have as many. I own a good amount of books, but not as many as I used to. I used to have a huge collection because I've always been a book person. But after I got mold illness and I went through the whole, you got to get rid of everything you own that has paper, getting rid of all my clothes and all my furniture and all my books, I transitioned a lot more to Kindle. And I know a lot of other people do a lot of digital as well. Like I'm a big fan of not having a lot of extra items. But here's my thing. I think about AI. And this is what I know. I know that one of my skills was always Google searching. I'm really good at finding things on Google and researching in that way. And since chat, since Claude, since whatever you use has gotten bigger, Google is trash. Like, I mean, nothing comes up anymore. You can't even use it. And so this is what's scary about it. I used to be able to look something up on Google, and need to use the discernment and critical thinking skills to sort through all of the different things that came up and sort through pages and pages of things. And especially like I think about health, more traditional old school health, and then more like alternative health, or like Eastern versus Western health information, and sorting through all of that. And now nothing comes up. You can't even find things anymore. So what that does is that forces people to either go use social media, which is a lot of people just regurgitating random shit they've heard. It's not real. Or you have to go to Claude or chat, where you don't get to sort through different sources and get different opinions. You get one opinion. And where is that coming from? Where is that coming from? Because something as simple as, like the other day I was looking up, what's the functional medicine lab range of, I forget what I was looking up, some marker, because I just redid my labs. And I've always done this for the last 15 years. Like I would get labs and I will look up that, and I will literally go to like 40 different sources through Google or whatever. And because different people have different opinions. And now none of that pops up, and it's just, oh, well, Claude will tell you. But where is Claude getting that from? This is dangerous. This is really, got it. They're pinging me really hard. That's really dangerous when you think about it. And I was thinking about just looking things up when I was learning in school, or like when I was in, running different clubs, for example, and I had to like figure things out. And now I'm like, wow, I get one source. Or even I've had this issue with things like tech wise. I'm running into a problem and I go to Google and nothing pops up, which forces me to go to Claude. But then Claude has one answer. And if that answer, and I'm like, well, that's not working for me. What else can I do? It only has that one answer. This is really, really dangerous. This is really dangerous. And with the books, the reason that came up, which I honestly had not thought about, they were like, you have to be aware of what a modern day book burning would look like, which is, oh, all my books are on my Kindle. We can take all those away. Those can all get removed. We can go in and change the text on those books, right? Like back in the day, they had to go physically burn things. Nowadays, delete. That simple. Everything's on your device. Nowadays, oh, everybody's in their Tesla. Everybody put on your brakes. Like, you really have to think like this. And I know that people it's so crazy to me how many people say that they are conscious and spiritual and do all this work, and they don't want to think about these things. It's irresponsible to not. Like, you have to look at the reality, and that's not all easy. I'm going to go off on that, but we have to look at that stuff, right? And so that was a very important thing when they're like, you need to buy physical copies of things that you don't want to ever go away, because there's a reality. I think about probably my favorite book of all time is Jane Eyre. I love Jane Eyre. And I think about what if one day they were just like, we're taking that away. It's gone. And my kids could never read that book. What if they took away 1984? What if they took, there's so many different things that they could take away that are really important. And especially, art is what we're holding on to now for innovative thinking. And art is the most important way to raise consciousness and to drop us into our bodies and to more innovative possibilities. But also, it's always been the way that we as a society explore, well, what would happen if? It's a safer way for our psyches to deal with negative potentials. There's all kinds of movies about the future. Some are doom and gloom, some are exciting and optimistic, but it's a way for us to explore these concepts. And so if that starts getting managed in a way it already is getting managed, look at the film industry, look at what's on Netflix. It's like there's an agenda there trying to get everybody to believe something specific. That's really dangerous if we're only pushed to ideate in a certain direction. And so we have to really fight for our imaginations. We have to really fight for our creative capacities to dream and envision in a positive way. And I think that's where coming back to what would actually be helpful for this new generation. This younger generation that unfortunately got stuck in their houses during really formative years. And how do we build skills around communication? How do we build skills where you're not afraid to talk to somebody in real life? You don't have to hide behind your phone. How do we build skills of critical thinking? Because it's so easy just to outsource. It's so easy just to have chat write it for you. But what happens if chat's not there? What happens if, chat starts plugging things in your consciousness that aren't healthy? This is already going on. And I think I saw that there are some lawsuits recently where people won against essentially I forget what it was. There's a bunch of different ones, but I think against Meta for, what was it? It wasn't bullying, but it was addictive properties. I think it was about addictive properties where people actually won. It's going to be really interesting to see what opens up from that. And so I know people can be really locked into the crumbling, but you have to understand that as things are crumbling, we are opening up into that white light, and we're actually in that blank space where the question becomes what do we actually want to create? So I think when we're looking at things like education for this next generation, which is super important, what does college look like for kids? Is that really important? How can we go more into trades. What skills do we actually need? I know everybody wants to be an influencer apparently, but like, I mean, there's not going to be as much money as there will be in trades. People actually need skills, you know? So I think we have to make some choices, because I feel like a lot of people relate to the future of, well, I don't know what's going to happen, or this is most likely to happen, so I need to adjust to that. And that is really disempowered. And that is exactly what they want you to think about your matrix experience and about your reality. But the way the timeline works is, instead of, I think this is going to happen, so I'm going to adjust myself to that, it is, what do I desire to create or energize for the future, and how can I add more momentum to that? Just because something feels highly probable for you right now doesn't mean that has to be the reality that we lean into. And especially the way that society is right now, the way that culture is, the way that social media is, we need to be really careful of the agendas that are going on. Because I don't know why people are not smart enough to realize this, but back in the day, a tale as old as time, when there wasn't social media, what was done to make everybody think the same thing? What was done to make everybody afraid of ETs? We're going to make movies where ETs are scaring people, and we're going to put in all of the newspapers, people got abducted, all these horrible things. We're going to just put that into media, and you don't know anything other than what you're getting in the newspaper. You don't know anything other than what you're reading in the books, or what's on commercials, what's at the movies. Like, that's all you know. And so you think that that's all there is, and you think that's true. It's no different now with social media. Like, I think that's what people don't understand, is social media is just the new media, and social media has its agenda. And I don't think people actually realize how many accounts are straight AI bots. I don't think people realize how many comments are bots. I was watching, this was a while ago, that new Superman movie. I mean, it's probably not new now. It's probably like 3 years old now, but I don't know. The more recent one, which I thought was not great, sorry. But in there, oh my God, what was even happening? They have all the monkeys, like, in between dimensions. The monkeys are all bots. Like, the monkeys are all just typing comments to create a ruckus on the internet. Because do you know how it works? We have to be told what's going on. We have to be told. We're always told what's going on. It was on the World Health Organization website that they were going to have a pandemic. Like, you guys, it's right in front of us. And so that's why we have to pay attention to what's in movies, what's on TV shows, all of that, because we're either paying attention and we're saying, I don't consent, I don't want that. But that's literally what's going on, is there's all this fake stuff getting put on, comments to make people believe things are true. And you have to be careful of that. So this is why the only way to fortify yourself is to really drop into and accept what you do have responsibility for and what your energy is oriented toward. And we cannot be afraid of personal responsibility in our own lives. And we have to look at what we would like to imagine for our future, how we would like it to look like. And I think that's really important, because I know a lot of people listening, you're hoping somebody smarter than you figures out what we should do. And I'm not saying we all have to have all the answers. We won't, we can't, we're here to collaborate and work with people, but we have to start having more interesting conversations. It's important to listen to conversations with real life people outside of your bubble and outside of your expertise, so that we can actually like cross collaborate again and create something new for the future. But all of that to say, I feel like we're at a really exciting place as a collective and individually, because it's all just a reflection. Everything that's going on out here is just reflecting what's going on in here. That's how the hologram works. That's how energy works. So you're either oriented toward it's all crumbling and what's going to happen and we're screwed, or you're orienting toward I'm actually dropping into my co-creative etheric template, and what do I want to ideate with right now? This is happening again externally because it's happening internally with you. And so if you can start to look into what is it that I actually want to create for my future. I'm having this conversation with a lot of clients who are feeling really ungrounded right now because they're at a place where they have to unfold a new template. And that's what I mean by unfolding a new template. We have been living off of templates, which are basically vibrational infrastructures that we drop into. And so we think, oh yeah, I want to go to school and then go to college and then get married and then, buy a house and get a dog and have a kid. Like, that's a vibrational groove. But we've been seeing how that's all breaking down because those templates are outdated. Like, our consciousness is moving beyond them. And so when those get outdated and we stop resonating with them, okay, we don't resonate with that groove anymore. So we move beyond it. And now we're in a space where there haven't been any grooves made. We're in a space where we need to unfold a new template. And so we're either downloading those that have already been created, or we are writing those templates. What that looks like is really challenging yourself of, okay, I want a career that makes me feel this way, or a relationship that makes me feel this way, or a family dynamic that makes me feel this way. And I'm not going to look at how other people do it. I might take inspiration from those things, but I'm actually going to imagine and create from the place of what if it was something I've never seen before? I've never seen it before. And I know that's like a really tough ceiling for people, because that's where people block themselves and they bounce right back into an old template. You need to be brave enough to go right into where that creates friction in your field and into your brain. Like, I've never seen it before. I've never thought of it before. That's right in your fear, and keep going in, and then you go into the void, and then you come past it and you're in the pure space of creativity. And that's where you can get divine inspiration. That's where you can get new ideas. And that's where the gold is. But what happens is when we outgrow those timelines and those templates, and we're in this random middle ground, we're going to feel unstable. And so we have to find our own footing by creating that new template. And creating that does not feel like you have any sense of what's ahead of you. Okay. So we have switched out of this paradigm of, I feel aligned with that future. We're now in the space of, I am in the forest, and no one has been in this forest before, and everyone's behind me right now, and I need to carve a trail. So I don't know, do I walk this way, or do I walk this way or this way? I don't know. I'm carving the trail, and all I focus on is one step at a time. I can't worry about, well, do I go forward right now because in 300 yards am I going to have to go left? You just go one step at a time, but think about what it's like to actually pave the trail first. Again, it's not in front of you. You don't see it. You don't feel it. And that is the space of creativity. That is the space of unfolding a new template. And that's what we're being asked of right now. So I want you to think about, if you are resisting that, if you are not working with that, if you are not fully embodied in that choice or that creativity, because that is your stuckness right now. And that is where things are going to feel really heavy. And that's where you're going to feel like the rocks are crumbling down on top of you and around you. When you start to accept and say, I am willing to imagine, I'm willing to dance in the white space, I'm willing to unfold a new template, I don't have to know all of it, I am willing to trust myself as I go one step at a time, and I'm going to drop into something higher, I'm going to drop into something bigger, I'm going to ask the divine and love to guide me forward, and you just go there one step at a time, you're going to immediately feel the vibrational shift into the lightness, into the possibility. And that's where things are going to just start coming to you. That's where your magnetism comes back, because your magnetism is not when you're hiding under all the rocks that are falling around you. It is when you're out in the white space, fully available for your co-creativity. That's my update for you right now as you navigate these interesting times we're in. It's all a matter of perspective. And that's the game of this reality. So I will close up there for today. I definitely recommend, again, using the Plant Your Manifestations in the Quantum guided energy work, and also starting a new cycle guided energy work. Those two are going to be really helpful if you're wanting to practice this energetic inside of Next Level You. You can get it in the CTC app. You can get a 7-day free trial. This is how you do your daily energy work. This is how you start to actually work with the field around you, which I think is not a nice to have, but a need to have in today's day and age, where everybody is waking up and they don't know what to do about it. And waking up is not just a one-time thing. There are consistent layers to that. So check out the link below if you want to try that out, and leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube and let me know how this lands, what's coming up for you. Do you feel yourself unfolding a new template? And if so, in what area? What are you contributing to? What's unfolding for you? It's a really helpful way to crowdsource and get people's gears turning a little bit. So that's it for today. Thanks again so much for hanging out. I will chat with you again next time.